I wrote a formula and I copied it down 50 times and I was done. And they're like, oh man, that's not, well, then we get the grades. Everyone is always looking for like the one new thing that's going to do everything. And there's, and I've heard just throughout my career, X is dead, call it whatever you want. Paper is dead, right? Excel is dead. Computer-based training is dead. Everything's dead. Yes. And none of it's ever dead. All of it just, its uses change, and again, like we've talked about, if you're just looking at your budget, Excel does a pretty good job. Like you said, I don't need Python. I don't need some big machine learning module just to find out if I've spent more than I've brought in. Now, I might need some of those things if I want to start modeling what's influencing how much money is coming in. But I think that everyone wants it to be just one product or one program or one technology, rather than saying each of these have a purpose. And the risk, though, and the downside of Excel, and actually I would even say, we see it with a little bit of the AI and machine learning, and most of the Microsoft products actually, is that Microsoft products now allow people to do things that they don't know how to do. And you saw this first with PowerPoint, right? Yep. When I was growing up, you couldn't make presentations in business. You had a graphics department who were the only people who knew how to do this. So you would have to go and you would actually have to be able to explain to them what you were trying to do. And they had people who were really good at visualizing and professionally designing things.
Right, now, drawing art and all that, like the whole thing.
Right, and thinking about how do I represent this idea. Now anyone could go into into PowerPoint and create a presentation. And and there's no cost for an extra slide. In the old days, you had to give those people money, right? You had a budget for graphics. So you had to think really carefully about what you wanted to put. Now you go into PowerPoint, it's got all these pre-made templates. And so it could automate creating a really bad presentation if you don't understand what you're trying to accomplish. The worst invention ever, and I don't know if they took it out, was the auto-fit text box. Because, in the old days, it was don't put too much information on a slide. And then PowerPoint comes along and they're like, hey, if you're putting too much information on, we're going to actually make it easier. We're going to automatically shrink your text so you can put even more crap on the slide.
God, that's all my college years. We used to call it death by PowerPoint because you just get like walls of text and you're like,
just put more and more on there. And Excel is the same way. I mean, think about it now. In Excel, I don't have to know anything about statistics to run a regression in Excel. Right. I could just have my data. I could look at the help file and say, okay, I know how I need to feed this, but I don't even have to understand really the difference between an independent and a dependent variable. Nope. And I just have to know that I have to put one column in as the dependent, one as the, but if I don't know the relationship, I'm going to run the regression backwards.
Well, 100%. And if you're getting a sample or the population, I mean, you may be doing on the whole wrong set of data, like
exactly. And I could make graphs of things that maybe I shouldn't have graphed, or I could choose the wrong graph, but it's easy. And that's what I worry about and
it's easy to believe you're not wrong is the problem. It's not only easy to do, but it's easy to trick yourself into being like, yeah, not only is this right, damn, I'm
it's
good.
Great,
you know what I mean?
Because it looks so good. And so I think
it looks convincing.
Is what we sometimes forget, right? I mean, to me, one of the times, like from an automation, the time I learned when there's actually data is really important, but understanding what you're talking about turns out to be even more important. When I was in college, I took a real estate course, and we had to do this model about leveraging your real estate investment. So we had to apply some kind of leverage model to figure out how much money you were going to have. Right. And the instructor gave us like 50 transactions that we had to apply this model to. And so the next morning, everyone came in, everyone's complaining. They're like, that thing took me all night because they all did it by hand. And they're like, how long did it take you? I said, it took me 5 minutes. They're like, what do you mean? I said, I wrote a formula and I copied it down 50 times and I was done. And they're like, oh man, that's not, well, then we get the grades. And they all passed. I got an F because it turned out I didn't understand it and I wrote the wrong formula.
But you were done super quick, huh?
And because it was a formula and applied to everyone, it wasn't that I missed some. I missed every single one. And so
you just answered our next question is when has data burned you? And I think that is a fantastic example of when data has burned you because you just get so much trust in the system. You're like, Excel wouldn't lie to me. She's my
It gave me an answer. I didn't get an error message. It gave me an efficient. It gave me an efficient way to get the wrong answer. And it gave me an efficient way to get the wrong answer at scale, right?
Yeah, right. Quickly and a lot of it.
That was sort of a bummer.